Obviously, not the result that Serbia wanted, drawing 0-0 with Denmark, and Serbia bows out of the Euros. I think it's only fair that we kind of start at the beginning and talk about the starting lineups and some things that surprised us. The first big surprise was Srđan Mijailovic starting at right wing back, which we haven't seen Srđan at all in this tournament. And then in the biggest match, he starts at the right wing back position. Probably the biggest surprise, Lazar Samardžić, we expected to start either him or Veljko Birmančević. Samardžić was the player who got the start. Mitrovic got the start up top, and I think the most surprising thing to me was no Jovic, no Tadic, no Vlahovic, no Sergei Milinkovic-Savic in the starting lineup. I think that was the biggest surprise to me. Gudel was back in the lineup after not starting against Slovenia. And I think if we jump into the first half, playing to not concede a goal pretty much the entire first half. Zero going forward, no shots on goal, nothing created. I love the fact that Lazar Samardžić started in a match of this magnitude, but I think starting him alongside Ivan Ilić is a bit of a risk that you take because they have a combined 28 appearances for the national team, and a lot of those are substitute appearances, not the full 90 or even 70, 80 minutes. So that's a big risk that you take with the lineups that was out there. Zero creativity, a lot of, I think Denmark maybe had one or two half chances in the first half, and then that was about it. We did nothing in the first half, no build-up play, sloppy passing, which is something that we're used to. Milenkovic, I think, has had a pretty decent tournament in the three matches. I thought in this one, this was his worst one. I thought he easily could have picked up a second yellow. Very rough with Højlund. Højlund was giving it back to him as well, but I think when you're already on a yellow card and you continue to still play with the same intensity, I think you have to draw a line somewhere to not pick up that second yellow and not leave your team down to 10 men. So that's something that was worrying some throughout the match. I actually didn't think that he would finish the match. I thought that he would get a second yellow, but he kind of held on. At halftime, you get two substitutes for Jovic and Tadic, and that's when Serbia picked up a little bit. I mean, it couldn't get any worse. So we did pick up a little bit with our offensive play, with our attacking. Jovic scored the goal that was ruled offside, correct call. But it was just still too much of nothing going forward, even at that point, and just couldn't get anything going pretty much the entire match. Even in the second half when it was a little better, it was just a little bit better. Like it was better because it couldn't get any worse, pretty much. And then once Vlahovic came on, it started to look a little bit more fluid, I would say. One thing I'll give Vlahovic, he fights for his team all the time, and that's something that you can't question. I think that ball that he chased down, that was pretty much going out for a goal kick, and then he squared it to Aleksandar Mitrovic, and Mitrovic shot it wide. That's a ball you have to get on goal. It's as simple as that. It's just very, very simple. You have to test the keeper from 13, 14 yards out. You just have to, and we didn't do that. There was a shout on the Mitrovic penalty. I'm very unbiased when it comes to penalties. There's no reason why I would be biased, even when it comes to my teams. I thought it was a penalty, but I'm not gonna cry over it because it feels like we didn't deserve it anyways. So I'm not gonna sit here and pound the table and say can't believe that's not given. It's a penalty, and two reasons why I think it's a penalty. If Mitrovic doesn't get pulled back, he gets to the ball, either probably not with his chest, but with his foot, like his foot extended where he can get control of it. And two, if he's not getting to the ball, why are you pulling him? Like, what's the reason for a tug if he's not going to get to the ball? There's no need for it. I thought it was a penalty. Would it have been soft? Maybe, because it's not like it was a pull back. It was just a little bit of a tug. But a little bit of a tug is enough to throw Mitrovic off and not be able to chase down the ball. So interesting decision. I don't even know if they looked at VAR, to be completely honest with you, because I know fans were throwing stuff onto the pitch, so I don't even know if it went to VAR. So, but we just couldn't capitalize when we needed to, and this doesn't go to this game. This goes back to the Slovenia game, a game that you had to have. One thing that I don't like with a lot of teams in these Euros, they're leaving their chances to the last match, and there's a lot of tinkering going on from the first match to the second match, from the second match to the third match. I think when you play games at every 3 or 4 days, you need to feel your best 11. 3 or 4 days is enough rest time. Every player who plays in his league plays about every 3 or 4 days. With Champions League, with Europa League, Conference League, with our domestic league, with domestic cups, you're playing every 3 or 4 days. So I don't want to hear that players are tired. I get it. It's the end of the season. Most of them get like 6, 7 days of break and then they're back training with their clubs. I completely understand, but you still have to give it your all. You committed to the national team for the summer. You still have to give it to your all. You have to give it your all. Yeah, it just didn't go our way. 2 points out of three, very very disappointing. At the start of the Euros, if you asked me what I expect, I would have told you that I don't think that we would have made it through the group, but we'd be fighting for it just like we were. It's just sad that it ended like this. I mean, when you have your first shot on goal in like the 70th minute, that's a problem. And that Sergei Milinkovic-Savic shot in, I guess it was already the 90th minute. I mean, the ball bounces 5, 6 times before he gets to the goalkeeper. It's just a very weak shot, and there's not much. There's no one really in front of him to block him out or anything like that. It's a weak shot. It's a shot that you would take 10 out of 10 times with no matter who the footballer is, and it barely gets to the goalkeeper, and that's an issue. That's a big time issue. You have to be able to test the keeper from almost exactly 18 yards out, and that's a problem. I can't say I'm surprised of not advancing. Obviously, what are the positives to take from here? I guess the backline looks a little bit better. I think Rajkovic has cemented himself as the number one goalkeeper going forward. If you want to look at that, I think that's something that we could bring up. The wing backs are still an issue. No left backs, no right backs in this tournament. I expect Terzic and Nedeljkovic to be called up to the Nations League matches tournament. I expect them to get some minutes, and we have to see what we can do at that position because we can't keep going like this. We don't have the right profile of players. Up top, it's an issue now as well. Like, what do you do with Mitrovic? What do you do with Vlahovic? They clearly can't play together. What happens with Sergey? What happens with Tadic? There's a lot of questions to be answered, and there's very little time. I think September is when the Nations League starts. So that's in what, June, July, of 2, 3 months, 2.5 months. So questions need to be answered, and I think a big question is if Pixie will be back as the manager. We'll see how that is handled. I have my personal opinions on that, but yeah, we'll see how this goes down. And if he's not staying, I think it'll be announced in the next week or so. And if he is staying, I think it'll be announced in the next week or so. So we'll see what happens. Any questions? Let me know down below in the comments, and I'll hopefully answer them.